Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today is the first day of the World Championship for MTG, kind of the end of the season. Best tournament, like best of the best are playing out this weekend in Vegas. We got limited out of the way, and the other format is standard. And this is kind of our first look of really high level competitive standard with the pros kind of looking at the fields, seeing what's best, and kind of putting together what they want to bring for the best deck. So the standard list just got displayed. There's like 110-ish competitors. Looking at the meta breakdown, we had nearly 20% of the players bring Esper midrange, and we'll look at these deck lists themselves. I'll link them so you can kind of take a look. Mono Red was the next most played deck at about 10%. Then we had Esper Legends. So Esper is representing about 30% of the meta. The midrange and Legends deck slightly different. One's a little bit more creature packaged. One has a little bit more interaction with like wedding announcement mains and some counters. Then we have the domain ramp, kind of the traditional ramp, not the Alara ramp. Golgari midrange, mono white humans, Rakdos reanimator, Esper control, Zoria soldiers, and then 26 other. So we'll take a look at some of these deck lists today. We're not going to go through all 100 of them, but kind of just take a look and see what's the pros are bringing today. So this is the Esper midrange list. This one Robert Anderson brought. So we'll kind of see if there's variances between them as we kind of go through. But the big thing here is it's like a wedding announcement, Virtue of Loyalty, Tokeny Shell. You still have your Raffines, you still have your Denics, your Shieldrids. Most of the decks now are playing at least one copy of Lord Skitter in the main, similar to the Legends, or the Legends deck. Because it makes tokens, it eats the graveyard, kind of insulates it around Liliana, puts pressure against control. You have your Fairy Mastermind, steal your opponent's card draw, kind of mixed into there. Look at that. Look at this quality program on their website. Fairy Mastermind pulls up the art for Rona. So it's not Rona, it's Fairy Mastermind. Wandering Emperors, you got Make the Spears, Go for the Throats, Cut Down. So a lot of interaction, ability to kind of counter those big mana decks as well, the sweepers, stuff of that nature. Your sideboard's got like more planeswalkers, more interaction, some sweepers, hand hate, destroy evil, kind of all those goodies mixed in. So just really powerful Esper based cards. Pretty much the same list. Fairy Mastermind still broken in this one here, so it looks like the team brought that. We have Rakdos Reanimator. So Traxa is kind of the top end of the deck. You're leveraging, now you have like the Iron Crag to help you ramp up ahead, big scores in here, and the Cruelty of Gix is what's going to allow you to cheat into play Atraxa. You also have Virtue of Persistence as kind of a big top end, steal all your opponent's creature style strategies. Elish Norn, thanks to the treasures, can be cast. Decadent Dragon to kind of steal your opponent's good stuff. Then you have Shieldrids in the side, just a bunch of removal. You got some Disdainful Strokes, having access to all the treasure enablers, as well as Celestis allows you to kind of splash these off-color spells. You'll notice in the mana base as well, they are playing some of the Triomes and some off-color lands, just to hard cast Atraxa if needed. We have Domain Ramp, and kind of the configuration that was settled. We see 3 Invasion, 3 Bramble, just as another 2 mana accelerant, 2 Chrome Host Seed Shark in the main, and kind of a Elish Norn's the best card in the mirror because it shuts off a lot of your opponent's ETB style effects. We have Drag to the Bottom as a sweeper, Sunfalls, a single copy of Herd Migration in these lists, 3 Courier's Briefcase, the Virtue of Persistence, Leyline Binding, and 1 Ossification main. Big thing you want to look at is no Myrex in the mana base in this particular version, which is always interesting. So no creature utility style lands in the mana base. Some Thruns is like a uncounterable threat. That's usually where you want to see, because against like the blue base decks, they'll bring in counter spells for you. So single uncounterable threat. Sometimes we see Tyrannix Rex, but we're seeing a lot of Void Wrens to kind of counteract that. Disdainful Stroke big in the mirror. You got more Chrome Host Seed Sharks, more sweepers, Sunset Revelry for like the aggressive decks mixed in as well. We have our first look at the Esper Legends deck. So you see this version compared to the other Legends deck, a lot heavier on creatures. So you're really taking advantage of Raffine here, 27 lands. So you have a lot more of the utility lands, Iganjo, Otawara, and Takenuma. Basically, they're extra spells. Early game, they're lands, late game, they're spells. And you're kind of just going all in with like Shieldrids, Urtai, Thalia attacks. Only 3 go for the throats in the main. Does this Rona actually work? Okay, so this Rona actually works. This Fairy Mastermind gives you the bad Rona. Extraction Specialist for a lot of the heavy removal decks that are non-exile. Lauren kind of for artifacts, enchantments. You got a counterspell package. Elspeth Smite for the aggressive decks. Look at this. Elspeth Smite is a Yara, the first lock. Just, again, A+ quality coding on this site. Wedding announcements in there as well. So I'm going to kind of skip over like the Esper midrange. We got Azorius Soldiers. So just kind of I believe a lot of them are going the Flash package. So you'll notice like Zephyr Sentinel to kind of reuse your stuff. Also lets you reset your Knight Errant of Eos, which is Finn the Fangbearer. Look at this, just surprise cards left and right. So you kind of get your card advantage engine going. Single copy and invasion in the main. And then you have like a full 7 counter spells to help against the bigger mana sweeper decks in the format. More sticky threats removal, and then some more cheap counter spells. We have Rakdos Breach, which is just kind of a beseech, actually interesting, beseech the mirror, leveraging your cheap artifacts. So you have a big score that can make artifacts. You have that's it, I guess. And then Bloodtithe Harvester. So Beseech can kind of copy, find you kind of key pieces. And then you go with like Breach the Multiverse to kind of go over the top in that case. So kind of a mid-rangey, trying to use Breach the Multiverse to kind of compete against those bigger mana decks, along with a single copy of a Tally in the main. Esper midrange that we see, Esper Control. So this is kind of the answer for everything. Wandering Emperor, Sunfall is the primary win condition, but Sunfall is a surprise. You activated the trap card. It's Verja, Judge of Valor. You got Myrex as the win condition as well in the mana base. Just curious if they're playing, yeah, they're playing one Restless Fortress as well. More creatures in the sideboard with like Shieldred, Chromo Seed Shark, and Denic as well. Just a bunch of counters removal kind of mixed into there. What I'm most curious about, so we got mono red aggro. So 2 Squeeze, 4 Godric's in here, 4 Adversaries, 1 Feldon, 4 Charming Scoundrels, 4 Swiftspears, 2 Voldaren Epicures. So notably, Voldaren Epicure is another way to trigger Godric on its own because you get the second copy coming in. You have 4 Kumanos in here, 2 Witch Stalkers, 2 Monstrous Rage, so a split on those. A little bit more spell-heavy version of the deck. 23 lands with 3 Mishras in there. You got your Jayas and Koths in the sideboard, Torch Towers, and the Urabrask Forge tech, which is kind of sweet. So another Rakdos Reanimator deck. Sultai midrange. So this is basically the green-black midrange deck with like Shieldreds, Glissas, Graveyard Trespassers, Lord Skitter, Mossweep Dread Knight, but playing Fairy Masterminds, as well as Kaidos in the main. And then that gives you access to counter spells. This is really to kind of hedge the bigger mana decks. Usually they go for the top of you, Atraxa, stuff like that. You kind of get ground out. Gives you Disdainful Stroke, Negates kind of mixed into there as well. So you get a copy of Vraska in the sideboard. Another version of mono red with, this is Rakdos Burn. Okay. So Swiftspear. So you're basically using like the Callus, Sellsword as a way to kind of fling damage at your opponent. And then that's pretty much it with the black cards. Kind of a weird mix of cards in here. Urabrask's Forge in the main, so you can kind of fling that copy at it. We see a copy of Selesnya Enchantments. So 3 Catilda main, Jukai, Spirited Companion, Generous Visitors, 4 Hallowed Hauntings, 4 Currens, and then Rite of Harmony and Seed of Hope, all for card advantage. So kind of filling your graveyard, getting that value. Late game, you can kind of mill over Catildas to use them as spells as well. 2 Wedding Announcements in the side, 3 Elesh Norns kind of mixed in. Really trying to dodge Farewell in those matchups, which like the mid-range decks aren't really playing Farewell. See our first version of Humans. So the kind of card that's come in is the Spellbook Vendor. I was jokingly saying this is Luminarch Aspirant at home, the no-name version. Kind of put a buff onto your creatures, get you some scry value, some tax effects, just trying to go linear in terms of aggro. Emperors in the side, bunch of removal, Wedding Announcements, and Invasion for the grindier matchups. Also 2 Virtues of Loyalty. Are they on Thalia? So they are on Thalia, so it's just something to be mindful with the non-creature spells. Rakdos Reanimator, Legends. So we do have a copy in the other of the Invasion of Alara deck. Notably, are they playing the Tanuki? They are playing 4 Greater Tanuki to help ramp up in the deck itself. That's kind of just the tech you want to see from there. Golgari midrange. I'm just going to see how many So no tortoise. Oh no, 3 tortoise. That's what I kind of wanted to see. How many tortoise they were playing in terms of the deck itself. Got Ashiok on the side, some Nissas mixed into there, Gix Command in the main, 3 Lilianas, 2 Virtues. So an assortment of removal spells. Esper, Domain Ramp. So Reed Duke chose Domain Ramp. So do with that information as you would. You kind of Courier's Briefcase, 2 Beanstalk in the main as your 2 drops. So trying to go for more the grind value in that respect. Domain Ramp, Esper Legends, Rakdos Sacrifice. So Chris Ferber. So we got Godric's in here, Razor Slash, Fran, Sir Ginger, Voldaren Aperture, Urbrask Forge. So kind of an aggressively slanted version. Notably, a little bit of burn. You got Torch the Tower and Annihilating Glare, which is just now an art card. Annihilating Glare is basically the sack. It destroys a creature, I think, or planeswalker. You sack an artifact or enchantment for 1 mana. Otherwise, you got to pay 5. Some obs in the sideboard, lilies, virtues, kind of a mix of removal options. More domain. Mono blue cauldron was the other deck I wanted to see. So let's figure this one out. So it's using Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and then it's leveraging Training Grounds as a way to reduce activated abilities. You have Sleight of Hand to kind of set up your draws. And then how are we getting stuff into the graveyard? So activated ability, Sleep Curse Fairy to untap the creature. You have Hypnotic Grifter that allows you to connive and put stuff into the graveyard. Omen Hawker reduces the cost of activated abilities. So in theory, you have Training Grounds. Training Grounds reduces the activated ability of this to 1 mana. Omen Hawker then creates infinite mana. You can tap and tap every time generating colorless mana, the blue mana being used for Sleep Curse Fairy's activated ability. Hypnotic Grifter can then go through your entire deck. You have Surge Engine to make your thing unblockable. Rona can also then effectively draw you your whole deck. And then the Realm Cloak deals 1 damage to any target. So how are you creating red mana is the question. It's a very good question. How are you creating red mana? As all the activated abilities, the activated ability here deals 1 damage. How are you creating red mana? That one I cannot tell you. I do not know how it's creating red mana. I guess like if you instead bargain it, it gets it for the turn. But other than that, like Omen Hawker just creates blue mana. And I just don't see how you're creating. Let me know in the comments if you could see the line here. Like I could see how everything else works, but I can't see how this red mana is being generated. You're not reducing the cost on it. And you're not able to, like with the lands or anything like that, create red mana. Boop. But that one's a cool one. We got Rakdos Reanimator, Selesnya Enchantments. Take a look through a couple more. Zorius Tokens. So Invasion of New Phyrexia, Invasion of Segovia, Regal Bunnicorn in here. Eater Virtue for like the abilities, Virtue of Loyalty, Wedding Announcement kind of pile. Another deck that just never wants to see a farewell come its way. Cheap counter spells to kind of protect it. Seeing a Falconwrath Pit Fighter in one of the decks. Some Witchstalker Frenzies, Invasion of Tarkir in this particular list. Nahiri's Warcrafting. Those different kind of versions of mono red are being brought to the table. Esper Midrange that we see another copy. So there's going to be naturally a lot of the Esper Midrange. So our first copy of Dimir Fairies by Theo Jacques Scriffin. So 2 fairy, 4 Sleep Curse Fairy, 2 Fairy Dream Thief, Fairy Masterminds, Halo Forger, Trespasser, Sheoldred, some Kaidos, Ego Drains, a whole bunch of different counter spells kind of mixed into there. So be interested to see how fairies play out. I feel like the spells are very good, but the creatures are kind of mid. So we got Esper Mid, Invasion, Mono Red Aggro. This one's on the Phoenix Chick, the Furnace Punisher. I don't love the Furnace Punisher version, to be honest. I think the card's too slow. It just doesn't punish. And like the 5-color domain deck, which you think would be like the one you're punishing a lot, just doesn't hit it. Another of the kind of mono blue cauldron deck. Got Esper Legends. More of the Grixis decks. So you kind of take a look, see what jumps out to you in terms of the decks. There's 2 whole pages of the decks. We got Rakdos Sacrifice in here, Domain Ramp. There's like 100 different deck lists here that you can take a look, but kind of focusing on like what some of the more popular ones are, just the configurations of what people are bringing to this event, and seeing ultimately what shows up in terms of the best performing deck. I'm interested to see, even like with all these versions of Mono Red, I'll be playing in a tournament in the near future, so I want to see which version of Mono Red ends up doing the best, and if Mono Red's even viable, to be honest. I'm just kind of scrolling to see anything jumps out. Yeah, I'm really curious how this deck gets red mana. It's like bugging me so much. Because like, makes blue mana, Training Grounds reduces the cost of the colorless. I can't for the life of me figure this out. All right, well, let me know. We will kind of go from there and see. But thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one. And we'll probably play some of these decks to see what kind of works out after the weekend itself. We have Bank Control, like basically blue-white control, Greenstock, and some Broker's Charms in there, kind of mixed into there. But thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one, and stay safe out there.